Yeah?
Yeah.
In Murdered Sole Suspect, you play as a policeman called Ronan O'Connor. In fact, you play as the ghost of this policeman because at the very beginning of the game, he dies. And the concept of the game is that you're trying to solve your own murder. Great concept. And you do this quite simply by walking around in a circle in rooms, pressing the X button, waiting for clues to come up, most of which have no bearing on anything, then piecing those clues together by highlighting them in a menu and waiting for the right sound to appear, pressing the A button, it links whichever clue to the query that the game is asking you at the time. Almost every single time, seemingly for no reason. It could have been any of the clues that suddenly link these two things together. And then you go on to the next bit. You can clip through most of the scenery deliberately because you're a ghost, but you can't clip through certain walls, which is explained early on by a hackneyed, pigtailed ghost girl. She basically just sits there and establishes the rules for ages. Yet they seem to be rules that the game is more than happy to break constantly. For example, the man can't touch anything. He can't pick up his gun at the beginning of the game. He can't pick anything up. Yet for no reason, about an hour and a half into the game, he can suddenly poltergeist, which has become a verb, things in the world somehow, and you make papers fall out of a printer or make a coffee machine squirt, or that's about it, really. I thought it was bloody awful. A bloody awful, tedious non-game that had a good concept, same concept as Ghost Trick, a fantastic video game on DS and iOS. But this is just nothing. Even points where it's asking you to piece clues together, it will give you 3 chances. But even if you fail the 3 chances, it just keeps letting you have more chances. It's like, why did you let me have 3 chances? I mean, the story itself was okay. It's something that if you've ever watched an episode of Ghost Whisperer, which I have because my wife loved Ghost Whisperer, it's basically the story to every episode of Ghost Whisperer. The dialogue in Ghost Whisperer is actually better than in this game. And I've just seen it all before on TV. Playing it's a complete non-event. I must say there are also a lot of stealth sections where you have to hide from these demons in the world, because for some reason there's demons in this limbo world that you're stuck in, where you for some reason hide in holes in the world that, I mean, it's narratively it's just daft, and then sneak up behind the demons and execute them seemingly by sort of pulling their demon clothes off. I don't know what he does. How Ronan knew how to do this the first time it happened, I have no idea. He's just become a ghost. He's just trying to work out what the hell's going on. A demon's come, and he's got the balls to walk up behind it and yank it a bit, because that's probably going to kill it. Fair enough. I'm not really picking holes in that. That sort of stuff is so far away from the things that are really wrong with this game that it's pointless even mentioning them. That's like, there's it's a non-game. That's the problem with it. I've seen some decent reviews of this game, which I'm baffled by. I'm absolutely baffled by. I thought it was one of the least eventful, sort of insultingly tedious is the word, games that I've played in a long, long time.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I completely agree. I think it's a catastrophe as a game. I mean, it really is, because it is like, it's a non-game. I mean, I felt this at the beginning, and I felt it when I finished the game. It feels like it had either its budget or its development cycle or both cut in half, because it's merely the suggestion of a good game. It's barely more interactive than its own trailer. It's almost as if a game died and what's left is this ghostly vapour of something that may never have even existed. It's such an odd thing, and like you, I don't understand the reception. I read some reviews on places like Polygon and Eurogamer, and I was just like, the writing's genuinely good. No, it isn't.
that baffled me.
The demons are genuinely terrifying. No, they're not. What are you talking about? I did
also,
actually.
The demons are just Dementors from Harry Potter. I mean,
that's true. That's true.
They just are.
I did think that it started quite well, because there is this intro cutscene. I'm not sure if it's been done before, But before he dies at the beginning, we find out bits and pieces about him via this cutscene where the incidents that you see are then sort of insta-animated onto his body as tattoos. And I'm not 100% sure, like I said, if that's been done before elsewhere, but just as a storytelling device, very cool. I was like, I like this already. I want to like it. And yeah, I just don't know where to begin because it just feels like it's not a game. I can't quite understand. I mean, I estimated in my review that it was 70%, but I'd say it's probably 80% of it is just walking around locked off spaces and picking collectibles up. Yeah. And you're constantly invited to interact with the game, but you can't really. I mean, so you can possess anybody. You're walking around this Salem, and it's one of those. It's kind of like it's perpetually at night, but there's just random people walking around, and you can possess anybody and read their minds. Literally 1 or 2 sound bites repeating just complete inane and superfluous information that you don't need and is not interesting in the slightest. So that's another problem, is that I kept doing it to wait for something interesting to happen, and on the few occasions that the game actually demands that you do that in order to progress, I didn't want to because I couldn't be bothered. I was like, I don't really want to hear anything these people have to say because it's just it's just water. It's just stuff to sort of fill time in the game. I did also like the explanation of the fact that you couldn't pass through some walls. I thought that was quite neat. The fact that the buildings were consecrated during the witch trials or something. I thought it's a nice bit of world building. Anyway. And also the other thing you're invited to do is interact with bits of scenery, like you said, as a poltergeist. But you do it again, like the possession thing. You do it on like 2-3 occasions. You have to move because if you interact with things in front of NPCs when you're not supposed to, they just stand there and pay no attention to it. It's not a system. It's a gameplay system that applies twice, and yet when you walk into a room, there's 10 things highlighted. Oh, come over and play with this. Even if there's a cop sitting next to you, and you fling papers in front of him, he doesn't pay any attention because it's not part of the game. Yeah. It just feels like all of those systems were suggested and they never got a chance to implement them because there's not really any systems in the game apart from walking around in circles, like you said, and picking up collectibles. There's also like a bit when you can possess a cat a couple of times and that's it, and then that never comes back. And those bits you talk about with the demons, again, the weird thing about those is that they're actually video gamey, sort of, there's a bit of stealth involved, but without them, and without a later bit where you have to bounce in between a ghost train or something completely nonsensical. Without those bits, this is a game that literally anybody could complete because you just walk around, you find the collectibles, and then you say, hey, pick every wrong answer first and then pick the right ones and we'll give it to you. I suppose it's difficult because if you make that stuff too difficult and there is a penalty for failing it, you'll alienate a lot of people, and if you make it too easy, there's no compulsion to play it, which is what's happened because I don't know why would anyone be compelled to just endlessly walk around and I mean, collectibles on the side are okay, but just a game that's comprised almost entirely of walking around locked off spaces and picking up collectibles, I mean, it's a real mystery. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you've basically said it all. There's no challenge. What can you say? I mean, like I said, I think it's a catastrophically poor video game. It's barely a game. It feels like they had so many ideas and they never got the opportunity to implement it. So instead, what you do is walk around. I mean, I do like the main character's, the guy that plays the main character, because he's covered in tattoos. He's got a really shady past. He wears a fedora, and like he's one of those characters that should, by default, speak like this, and he doesn't. He's actually played like a sort of relatively normal, laid-back bloke, and I thought that's quite an interesting take, I suppose. I'm just grasping at straws. I mean, yeah, I really tried to like this game, but it's not really a game. It's the shell of a game, and there's a turd in the middle.